Okay, well, welcome to the UKBC interview. And today we've got Simon King from Haiths Seeds, which could be quite interesting because they're one of our main sponsors for the UKBC, which is great. And we'll go through a few slides. So welcome, Simon. If you tell us a bit about yourself, be great.
Will do. Thank you, Neil. Just to say thank you for inviting me to talk today to your membership, and thank you for spending time. We're after hours, very dark outside, so we're very
Yeah,
committed. And thank
definitely.
you. It's very nice of you to invite me and Haiths as well. I'm one of the directors, so I tend to. I've been involved in the inception of the UKBC deal right from the beginning, from the very first phone calls with Graham Turner,
Brilliant.
when Graham was obviously fighting very hard for the UKBC membership, and he wanted to make sure you had something that was worth your while, but obviously he also wanted to make sure that it was something that your bird collections can benefit from as well. So
Yeah,
I tend to look after the marketing, the advertising, and some of the operational items, which we'll come on to in a little bit
yeah,
detail as we talk.
brilliant. Okay. Well, I think what we'll do, I shall share my screen. Okay, if we, if you want to tell us a little bit about the history of Haiths, obviously this picture's a black and white pigeon racing one. My dad used to, or still does, race pigeons, so something quite close to my heart. I mean, is that where it all started, or?
Well, it started in 1937 for Haiths, but here we can see Ted Haith, the founder of Haiths. And Ted was a senior zookeeper, a curator at Grimsby Zoo. And basically, where it all started was that he couldn't find clean seed or clean enough seed for his bird collections. So he started experimenting, and he worked on different formats, different ways to clean seeds. He instinctively, I think it's fair to say, it was an instinct rather than science. He instinctively knew that dust, debris, extraneous husk was all of detriment to seed, and there was no place for it. So he experimented with what became the Haiths, the first Haiths seed cleaning machine, which actually it's top secret, but I'll tell you, Neil, it was a tin bath. But he managed to clean seeds so well, in fact, that what would happen is the queues at Grimsby Zoo would sometimes be longer from bird keepers who would be queuing up to talk to Ted and ask him whether he had any clean seed for them. So I think in the end, he was almost given a little bit of an ultimatum, which was, look, what are you, Ted? Are you the senior curator of our bird collections and so on? Or are you selling seed? And the rest is history, really. But
Yeah,
I say the rest is history, but we'll come on to it in a few moments, because what I'd like to think is that if Ted Haith was around today, he would say, thank you to his existing team, really, or the team that's still at Haiths today, for remaining very close to the founding kind of cornerstones, really, of what Haiths seed is, which is super clean seed.
yeah, yeah, brilliant. Okay, so so I believe that this is now the future of Haith. So take us through your big projects.
Will do, Neil. Thank you for this. Is a photo I took not very long ago, really, maybe about 2-3 weeks or so ago, and this is basically that we're migrating from our current building, which is at Europark in Grimsby, and we're moving to this purpose-built site in Louth, and we're taking our famous bird foods with us, and we'll move hopefully in March, before April 2023. And what this does, Neil, it gives us an opportunity, really, it's given us an opportunity to relook at what we do as a business and streamline it in terms of the footprint that we need, what cleaning process we need. So how can we do what we do, but do it better? So how can we how can we improve our operation? But equally, and as important as that, what we also wanted to do was we've purchased more land than we're required. So this is about a 2-acre site. And what we're going to do is we're going to hand back more commercial space to nature. So around about 20-ish% of the site will be given back to nature. And what I mean by that is, for example, our drainage will have wildlife attenuation ponds, so that we can offer obviously fresh water, or we can try and create a habitat that nature is happy to come and visit and stay on site. Some of the other things we're doing will be planted native species of not just trees. It's not all about trees, but in terms of planting, we'll be trying to remain native so that we can attract native species as well. So we can actually increase and improve, well, definitely improve, but increase the net biodiversity of that site, so that actually by the time we finish the project, we will have added some significant value to that in terms of nature and wildlife. We recently interviewed on our own Haiths Nature Space with Haiths podcast. We interviewed somebody from the Institute of Zoology, and we asked about this project. And the reason we interviewed her was because there is a paper that's only just come out, and it's talking about urban rewilding and how urban rewilding can help reduce the worst of climate change, and also it can improve biodiversity as well, or replace biodiversity loss. So what we want to do is we want to become a model for how in a commercial setting we can give some space back to nature. So we can not only do great work for yourselves and your fellow members of the UKBC, but everybody who feeds birds, we can make sure we give them a clean diet that's healthy for the birds, but also, rather than us just become a company that says, do this, do that, we can put our money where our mouth is and hand some of that space back to nature.
Yeah, because I can imagine some of your buildings might run away with things like storage and that, and actually, some sort of out of the box thinking probably can save yourself a lot of space and time and things. So, and yeah, I mean, anything for rewilding must be on the high on everybody's agenda now, I think, with the way things are going. But and I think this next picture, I think, is that a sort of architect's view of what you're sort of aiming for?
It is, but it's going to be a fair, hopefully, touch wood, it's going to be a fair reflection of what we're aiming at. So, the entrance of the building is just slightly to the right of what you can see there. And then this is our customer car park. This is the shop entrance. So really, we're going to be encouraging people to come and see us. Although we have a trade counter, and we have a trade counter at the moment, we want to make sure that we are a little more accessible. So, for example, we're going to be launching events from here. So another podcast guest we had is the canoe river cleaner. He's based in Grimsby.
Yes.
Done a wonderful job of looking after the River Freshney. We've invited him to bring his Canadian canoe to our wildlife attenuation pond, and he's going to put his canoe on there, and he's going to give everybody a talk about nature and wildlife. And actually, we would do, I'm sure, working with yourself and Graham, we could hold an event really where we could get UKBC members down.
Yeah.
Well, come and see it for yourself. But that's what we're aiming for.
That'd be great. Yeah. So is it far that you're moving from where you are now? Is it geographically a long way, or?
Not really, no.
No.
From Grimsby, it's about 20-25 minutes or so. And this is the edge. Louth's a lovely town. It's on the edge of the Lincolnshire Wolds, but the capital of the Wolds, let's say. But obviously, also because of where it is, there's an old disused railway track that almost runs adjacent to the back of this building. So we're hoping that this wildlife track, or this, I'm calling it a wildlife track, but this disused train track has become a wildlife corridor.
Yes.
So we want our building to become this stepping stone for nature, really. So nature that's traveling through this wildlife corridor, the disused train track, can also then use our site as a little bit of a core habitat really for them. That would be the benefit. Now, what's interesting another thing that might be interesting to your your fellow budgie keepers, is that we had on one of our podcasts, we talked about what we may plant in different tree species. So, for example, as you enter the building here, you would open up to silver birch, and they'll look great because this front of the building is black. So with the silver birch, it will look wonderful. But obviously, silver birch is a native species of tree. Now then, a little bit of a quiz here. What one tree that is not going to be native is something that koala bears feed from.
The eucalyptus. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just checking to make sure I hadn't sent you asleep.
Yeah, trip me up.
What we will be doing is we will be planting some eucalyptus trees in homage really to our bird keeping friends, and specifically budgie keeping friends in this respect. So again, what would be a nice thing to do is when you do come and see us, come and pick a few of those eucalyptus leaves and take them back for your birds.
Yeah, quite a few bird keepers actually grow a lot of these eucalyptus and things in pots and trim them off because they bring hens into condition very easily. So it's something that I'm sort of I've got areas where I can collect fresh branches, but it'd be nice just to be able to cut stuff each day. So yeah, very good. Yeah.
And we thought as well that we might do this and to tip our hat also to the Queen as well, who obviously features in our history, in Haith's history. Really, she was very keen. The sovereign was a very keen aviculturist and so on. So that we will when we plant, we'll think of her as well.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, she had what's called Liberty budgies, which is basically an aviary where they can free fly around London, and then they come back to feed their chicks as and when the chicks needed feeding. You could only really do it when they were feeding chicks, but unfortunately the sparrowhawk usually got quite a few of them. So
I didn't know that, Neil. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously seed is your core business, and we'll cover some of those. But there was your mission R.
Yes, this is something that's very dear to us. So this is about R because it's reduce, it's reuse, recycle, and we've heard these things thrown about so often. But for us, it's not an empty promise. It's not just hyperbole. What it's about really is about us trying to not just ensure things can be recycled, but also to reduce them in the first place. So, for example, the image of the building that you've just looked at, Neil, we have absolutely laboured over the design of the building. It's very simple. The design, hopefully, when you come and see it, you'll say, well, it's definitely simple, son. And the reason it's simple is because we laboured over it. What we didn't want to do was we didn't want to introduce any more structure than we required, because it all has not only does it have a cost, and that cost finds its way into products. Yeah. So that's one reason. This is not about building a glass palace for ourselves. But the other reason is that these are all resources. So although people can talk about recycling, and we're more interested in either reusing or cutting them out of the process in the first place. So I'll give you an example. We have a fulfillment center where we actually look after third-party brands on site, and we're really proud about this side of the business. And what differentiates us from some other fulfillment companies is that we're very interested in talking to companies or brands that are aligned with their same mission, and to be able to offer them an opportunity to have their products fulfilled from a company that really does care about these things. But boxes, for example, that come into the building, if we can reuse them, if we reuse them for our products and we ship them out, then that actually, as if by magic, thank you, this is brilliant. I'm in safe hands here, and this is where this image came from. This was taken during lockdown, really, but some of our customers said, well, look, prove it, what do you do? So we sent them a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, just a bit of a joke, really. And yet it's very true. So what it shows is we say, look, we will find a use for these cardboard boxes. What we'd like to do is to fill them full of our goods and ship them out, and then we give them a second life. But if we don't have to in the first place, then we won't. So that's all part of our reduce, reuse, recycle, our mission.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay.
And the thing is, if I may, Neil, the good thing is it's kind of that mission runs through the entire business. So Gemma Saunders, who I know Graham speaks to regularly, for example, Gemma back at Haiths is overseeing this mission and all the time she's talking to our team. We've got people on the shop floor like Jane and so on, who are really passionate about what we can recycle, but also, for example, we used to have a catalogue for wild bird feeding, and it used to go out with a plastic sleeve. And we thought, well, we've done this wonderful thing by using recyclable paper, but now it goes out in a plastic sleeve. Let's remove the plastic sleeve. It's not about finding a recyclable one. Let's just remove it, take it out of the chain. Yeah,
no, and I think sometimes we miss the obvious, don't we? So I think this is this your sort of journey of how and what you sort of aim for, is it?
It is, and this, Neil, goes back to where Ted Haith started from, really. This healthy seed, healthy birds.
Yeah.
And although his first seed cleaner machine was just a tin bath, it's become more complex since those days. But this is very much the same process, without the science back in Ted Haith's day, but now we have the science behind this. So basically, and you'll have noticed this even more in this last year because it's been so dry. But I think for all your fellow UKBC members will, I'm sure, have driven down a country lane or even along the motorway and seen when some of these when these combine harvesters are actually harvested and the dust that's created.
Yeah,
it's been for me it's anecdotal, but it's looked even worse than ever. There's just so much dust. If that seed isn't cleaned, then that finds its way back, or it finds its way into the diet. Now, when we look at wild bird feeding, for example, that sifting process that a bird goes through in the wild, that if there's dust on that grain, on that seed mix, it's only a matter of time before that's finding its way into the air sac of these very small birds. And so we sat probably 7 or 8 years ago. You'll see this chap in a white coat here. This represents our veterinary advisor, Professor John E. Cooper. And some of your members may have met John before. John, back in the days of the National, when it was at the NEC, Birmingham, and so may have met John. John's a fascinating chap, but he's a veterinary pathologist. He's a professor. And he said to us, we asked John, we said, look, we think our customers are safe with Haiths. And he said, look, I know that sounds nice, but prove it. And we said, okay, you help us. So we've spent several years creating a QC process that we're proud of. And one of the key issues for us is, although we have an automated or really a semi-automated process of manufacturing, what we do is we allow our team at any point during that process to stop the process, to stop the manufacturing and say, I'm not happy with this. This isn't clean enough. We need to relook at this as a diet. So we don't just look at a small sample. We look at the lion's share. We look at the actual mix that we're making, because we may make 1/4 of a ton, we may make 1/2 a ton. But what we want to do is to make sure that we take a very large sample size of that mix and we have a good thorough look at it. But the key to it for us is to clean those individual seeds well before they work their way through the manufacturing process. Once it's become a part of a mix, it's almost impossible to clean. So if you haven't cleaned it right at the beginning, it's never going to be clean at the end.
No.
So we're very proud of this, and it in some respects, it shouldn't be a point of difference, because if we had our way, everybody would clean their seeds to that standard, or But unfortunately, for when it comes to seed for cage and aviary birds, there is very, very little in terms of guidelines for how it's done. So we make our own QC process. That process also, John Cooper, that's been submitted and peer reviewed and published in several of his publications. And we've had comments back from his peers, and we've looked at our process, and sometimes we've tweaked it and improved it, and others we've stood robustly and said, no, we think we're right, and so on. But it's what we live and die by, and hopefully UKBC members can see the difference when they look at their seeds.
Yeah. I mean, there hasn't been anyone that's had anything bad to say so far, with any of it. We gave away samples, which we'll see in a little while, at the Parrot Society thing, and even people were commenting then, and that's just a little tiny sample of in a jiffy bag sort of thing. So
That's great.
Yeah. So yeah. So obviously now, I know you don't go round the shows all that much as a company, but obviously we went out and did some shows and took samples and things, and it really was very good. The feedback was good. So do you just sort of like to stay in the background a little bit as a company, or are you going to push forward? I know you say you're going to do your event, so that'll be quite good.
I mean, I suppose going back to the founder's journey, Ted Haith back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. I think that we went to every show. I think if somebody opened the fridge door, we were in front of it doing a show. That's the company and the way we did it, wherever the show was. I think in more recent years, we haven't done that. We put a lot of our efforts really into customer service, into our website, for example, making sure that's easy to shop from, and we find other ways to talk, rightly or wrongly. One thing we'd like to think we always are, it's very approachable. So if somebody wants to pick the phone up and have a bit of a chat, if they've got any suggestions, we will always do that. But it's definitely very good to see the UKBC out there, and we're very happy to supply some of these products so that you can show the difference between, or at least show what good quality clean seed looks like. And we also think at a time when perhaps bird keeping is not as popular as it was back in those 30s, 40s, 50s, we think it's so important that you're out there talking to people who are perhaps, they want to connect with fellow keepers of budgies, and also, but they want to do it right. They want to do the job. They want to do it right. They want to get great advice, and they want to feel like they're part of a community. And we applaud you for that, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I mean, one of my things from being with the UKBC is the forgotten part of the hobby, and that is like the hobbyists, the aviaries, and that. And I know you cater for them, but there was no clubs to cater for them. Even in a way, the pet breed or the pet bird people, they didn't really have anywhere to turn to. And I got on Facebook quite late, really. I was quite reluctant. And I found this Facebook page, and I don't see myself as an expert. I've just experienced. So I've done it my way for 40 years now. And that's how I've learned. But there was people out there giving wrong information. In the end, I just had to step in and say, look, hang on a minute, this isn't right. And seed was top of the agenda on most chats, because people would go into shops buying open bags and wondering why they had the little moth grub and caterpillars in it. And it's like, well, you've just bought that's been open for 6 months in a shop.
Yeah.
So there is so much. I mean, I know you say that the hobby isn't as popular as was, but I think I still think there is a massive part of the community and the hobby that are still uncatered for in a way. I've pushed for Budgerigar Keepers Show, and it's all these birds, these pretty birds that, yeah, they're not show birds as we see at the Budgerigar Society Club show and what we're doing with our show. But there's thousands of people out there that breed hundreds of birds every year, and they're never seen.
Yes.
They either end up in an aviary or a pet shop. So, and I think we haven't even chipped the top of the iceberg yet. We're still below the waterline, I think, with what's possible.
Well, the nice thing, Neil, is you mentioned Facebook, but the nice thing about the social medias, I mean, I will be right at the front of the queue to say what I think is bad about social media.
Yep.
But also I'll be right at the front of the queue to say what's good about social media. And I think this has been a very hard few years for everybody, courtesy of politics, courtesy of the damage, not necessarily that was done by Brexit, but the whole division of Brexit, whether you were for it or not, is the division that's the problem. And then obviously, when we come on to coronavirus and lockdowns, these are times when some people, and we've spoken to them, I'll be absolutely honest, Neil, we had conversations with our customers during lockdown. We had people on the phone who were in tears, not just one or two.
Yes.
Quite a few. We ended up opening and creating a helpline so that people could phone and chat with us, and we had to return quite a few calls just to make people feel that that this too shall pass. But that's easier to say. When we're sat in a building where there's 20, 30 people there, when people are sat on their own, and perhaps all they've got for company is a few garden birds or maybe a budgie or two.
Yeah.
It's not. So if the UKBC can bring those people together and share that knowledge that you've all got. I mean, when I speak to Graham, he's so passionate about what he does, Graham Turner.
Yeah.
And I haven't spoken to somebody at the UKBC who isn't passionate yet. So, so
this is it.
So social media can help you bring those people together and find them. It doesn't matter whether there's not 10,000 of you. It really doesn't, because if you can get a fair good few of you, and you can really make a significant difference.
Definitely, that's the idea. Definitely. So I think we've got a few. Being a UKBC member, obviously we're a VIP, which is nice,
Absolutely.
So there's several deals and discounts and things. So Graham helps sort of run that part with yourselves. So so if there's any members out there that want to try out Haiths or anything, then obviously just message us, and we'll get you hooked up. And I think the pallet deal's gone down reasonably well as well, hasn't it?
It really has, and obviously the VIP side, Neil, there is a code, it's best to deal with, for people to deal with their UKBC contact to figure out how to do that. But your members can always give us a bell if they're not quite sure how to do it. But the pallet, the order 10 bags or more, has definitely gone down well too. And if anyone's in doubt, just give us a bell on the 01472 number 357515. It's on the little flyer there, or there's an 0800 number there as well. We put the 0147 on there because sometimes people are worried about 0800 numbers because they think they may get charged, but that's definitely a free phone. So your members can save a couple of pennies there by phoning us. Just give us a bell if they're not sure how it works. Give us a bell. We'll
definitely. Okay. So I think these got slightly out of sync, so my apologies. But I think, is that the, let's just
That's
zoom in.
that should be I think that's the UKBC.
Yes, yeah, I think you're right. I
Budget.
think that
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
So yeah, so these were obviously sort of made up with Andy and a few of the others, to give, to give our members and other people a chance to give birds what they really need. Because I always find that there's a lot of millet goes into mixes, whether it's the cheaper side, and that I'm sure it's not just fillers, because it's not. They do need
yeah.
it, but I certainly prefer a mix myself, which is higher on the canary side. Although I do feed a lot of straights to my birds, and then I add soak seed and things to soft food, so
Right.
they get a good mixture that way. But yeah, some of these proprietary sort of brands you see in the shops these days are very heavy on the millets, aren't they?
They are. They are. And
Yeah,
I think what's interesting to hear is obviously you go to a good lengths to provide variety, and that is the spice for us. So why is it not the spice for bird
yeah,
life?
that's right. Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah, definitely. That I think is your tonic seed, isn't it?
It is. I thought I'd sneak that one in really because
Yeah.
it's I can't talk. I never really. I would say this is probably the longest conversation I've ever had with anybody who keeps budgies who hasn't talked about budgie tonic. So I thought
Oh,
I'd put it in there because people always want to talk to me about budgie tonic, and it's just one of those mixes that just has a. It's got almost got a fan club. Really, it should have its own
it
fan
has.
club.
I mean,
It's
I must admit, it's one I've not come across your tonic seed. Do you put the oils on aniseed or orange or anything, or is it
Yeah,
just?
there's aniseed,
Yeah,
there's a little
yeah,
bit of seed in there, and then the flake spinach as well, which is what you can see. Although
yeah,
maybe we putting flaked eucalyptus on there,
yeah,
but
yeah.
uh,
That's quite true. Yeah,
I will
yeah,
see. I might do that. Don't tell anybody.
yeah. No, no. I mean, they do need tonic seed as far as I'm concerned. In just, but I always do it in small amounts because we know what they're like. They'll go straight for the groats first, and then the hemp, and before you know it, that's all they want to eat. So variety, but I like to do it in lots of small amounts. So yeah. Oh, that's the budgie tonic that we took to the show. Tip top. That was the one that before the UKBC and that was the one I sort of said to people to get hold of, um, back in the when I first started on Facebook and things.
Yes.
So that's
Seems to be very popular, but it's also got a little bit of it's got a little bit of budgie tonic as well in there as
yeah,
well. So I think it's one of those things that and we call it tip top because really it was a tip from the top of how we put that together. So it just
yeah,
became a little more off the shelf, lots of variety in it, and just
yeah,
very popular.
yeah, yeah. And that's the obviously the UKBC mix, which has been successful. And yeah, Bravo. That's another one of your original mixes, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
We've had Bravo since I think the early 2000s, about
yeah,
2003 or so, and that one has become probably our most popular staple
yeah,
diet for budgies.
yeah. Is that a 50-50 mix one? I can't
Well, there
remember.
used to be. We don't now. We don't have a 50-50 anymore because
No,
what we found was that, and again, this is the problem, is that our range is so vast that when we look at it, holding out products that we sell in smaller volumes, that it what it means is that we can't. The product doesn't turn around fast enough.
no.
So it means that we've got product range and we've got breadth of product, but actually then we struggle with our premise of, or at least our offering of, being as fresh as possible.
Yeah,
So because if we because the volumes of it weren't big enough in the end, we would have more on the shelf, and then we would struggle to turn it round in that fresh is best
yeah,
process. And because people want it fast. If you're about to run out of budgie seed, you don't want to wait. You want a pretty quick delivery these days. So
yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing. We thought we've got to be to move forward. We had to leave a little bit of luggage on the train station on the
Yeah.
platform.
No, that's it. And that, yeah, they were the free samples we were giving out. That was the UKBC mix, which we did in those. And like I say, people were quite happy to make their comment just from having the pack in their hand. So it said quite a bit to us on the day.
We're very happy to support that. What if wherever, whatever you've got in mind, just talk to me, talk to the team.
Yeah, we will
We'll do
do.
things like that, no problem.
Yeah. So obviously, we've chatted budgies, but obviously you are far more than just a budgie seed company. Obviously, you do wild bird food. I think you do everything from duck food to pigeons and doves, don't you? So you know, is your some of your products, are they things you buy in from your other companies, or do you make these yourself?
In terms of the bird foods, we do we have exactly the same process really. We make all our own foods. There's a couple of foods that we, I suppose the EMP and so on that we purchase in, but I would say about probably 95, 99% of our seeds we make. And you're quite right, our wildlife, wild bird feeding and wild bird foods have become a very large part of the business now. So we offer diets. This one here, I think, is like looks to me like a basic to premium wild bird food type thing.
Yeah.
And this just offers variety of seeds, cut maize, black sunflower, and so on. That offers a variety of seeds because people want to attract a variety of birds. But what we've done is, interestingly enough, and these are suet pellets as well. Interestingly enough, though, what would be interesting to know for cage and aviary enthusiasts is that some of what we've learned in cage and aviary has moved or migrated into our wild bird foods so that we deliver and make a better wild bird food. Not only the cleaning is important to us, even though it's going to be put on a bird table, we think, well, when it's on the bird table, we can't protect it then, but we still want it to be clean. Just because it's going outside doesn't mean that it doesn't get cleaned at the same standard. But for example, our soft foods that are fed to soft-bill birds for bird keepers are also, we changed them a little bit because we increased the energy value of them as well. So we might add something like peanuts, for example, or peanut granules, should I say, to a soft food. And then we make that soft bird food technology fit for garden wildlife. And some of them, and we do the same with our hedgehog food, for example.
Brilliant.
So those foods were born in the cage and aviary back in the cage and aviary days. So this is a suet pellet. There's two flavors here, I think, a berry and an insect pellet. Predominantly suet with a little bit of with flavorings and with insects. It's got dried insects in there as well. And these are brilliant because they, in a way, some customers are really smart with these. Some people will just put them on a bird table, which is brilliant, no problem with that. Some customers will put them in, for example, a little crevice in a tree. And then that kind of, in a way, it promotes this natural enrichment as well. So this natural foraging, so just putting them a little bit of bark or on the ground. At the moment, we're looking at the in terms of food being on the ground, obviously because of the recent outbreak of bird flu.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed there's been a massive increase in the type of feeders that are on offer. Like that one, the one before, that's a window feeder, so you can observe the birds. But there are ground feeders now, just simple mesh ones, just to raise them up off the floor slightly. But it's a massive. I mean, somebody must be making a lot of money out of them.
We don't make any of the feeders really. We've got deals, licensed and deals with suppliers. The thing I like about the window feeder is that there are a lot of people. Not everybody is able to move around and get out into a bird table or to fill a bird feeder. So what this does, it could be used, for example, from somebody who maybe spends or can only spend a bit of time in their armchair.
Yeah.
Perhaps they're an armchair naturalist, but they want to see the birds still. So this can keep people engaged, or it's a great way of getting children engaged into bird feeding as well, bringing the birds up close and personal. The other thing it does by putting that on a window, it can also reduce bird strikes as well, because birds focus on something on the window.
Yeah, that's right.
Lots of benefits to the window feeder. It's a favorite of mine, really, as well, and also birds seem to introduce themselves because they can't help when they tap for the food. It's almost like the bird's tapping on the window.
Hello, I'm here.
So that's when you reach for your iPhone, and by the time you turn round, it's gone. But
it was a good try. Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, so I know you have specialist mixes as well, like the robin mix and everything, don't you? So one of my favourite birds they are.
They're beautiful birds, aren't they? And they are. There was a couple in my garden. I couldn't figure out whether they were a married couple or whether they were in combat.
Right. Yes.
but they yes, very entertaining to watch them. I don't think it would have been as entertaining if I was one of the robins, but
no,
looked,
I'm sure. Yeah. And obviously, you do the larger parrots as well, don't you?
We do, Neil, you're absolutely right. So we've got quite a few different parrot diets. So we have a low sunflower diet of so that parrots really enjoy sunflowers, but the problem is with that they're very high in calories, so they're similar to a Mars bar really in calories. So we offer quite a range, actually. So we've got some fruit and nuts, a little bit like this, and then we've also got soaking seeds. So we've got a parrot nature diet. So I think we mentioned before about soaking seeds. So that's nice because when they sprout, they can be fed at the most nutritional. And then we've got some like a superior parrot mix, which has chilies in and so on. So quite a range.
Yeah. I believe that the parrot diet is a science in its own right now, isn't it? Because these poor birds had gone for so long on a sunflower diet with a few peanuts and a bit of apple. And I'm sure over time the science within that will filter down through. Like you said, you filtered it through to your hedgehog mixes and your wild bird food. I'm sure it goes the other way as well and permeates through aviculture as a hobby.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look in there, for example, you can see pumpkin seeds in that particular mix there. Well, the white pumpkin seed. If something works and there's a benefit, we will talk to several years ago. We worked with Edinburgh Zoo with our parrot diet to try, just to see whether it could be improved and what type of results it got from being fed. We're always learning with these, but certainly moving a parrot off a very heavily based sunflower diet, I think is incredibly tough.
And there's one of the mini parrots. So so that's all of the slides. So I'll stop sharing for a moment. I've got a couple of other quick questions. So I'll let you top up the water supply. You've been doing most of the talking, which is good for me because I can talk quite a while. So I noticed you'd been doing podcasts, and we had a podcast with Chris Snell, which is one of a budgie fans. He's not a UKBC member, but he is well known within the hobby. So are you sort of doing this podcast across the hobby as a general thing? So you'll be parrots and things long term?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Neil. Our podcast we called Nature Space with Haiths, and I wanted it to be about about creating space for nature, really through podcasts, because we do a lot with our blogs, but actually nature obviously covers quite a broad
Yes.
broad church, and so it's not all about caging everybirds. Our very first one was with Chris Snell, and I know many of you know Chris very well. I thought it was a lovely podcast. I think when someone spent their entire, well, almost what seems to be their entire life dedicated to bird keeping, I thought, you know, look, that's obviously not everybody is in the UKBC, but I really want, if people have got knowledge to share, let's share it. And that's obviously I thought it was fascinating, some of the things, and there was a lot of content in that podcast, but we've invited, as I say, there was the canoe river cleaner, who's no ecologist by his own admission, but actually he lost his job during furlough, and instead of doing what many of us, what I might have felt like doing, really, which is just reevaluating your entire life, he walked by a river and saw it unclean and decided to get a canoe to clean the river out. And I thought, well, hats off to him.
Yeah, that's fair play.
More local heroes. And then we've had a scientific doctor who's talked about climate change and about the role rewilding can play in reducing the worst of the effects of climate change and biodiversity loss. Now, interestingly enough, we've also, and your members may be interested, or very interested in hearing the podcast we've just had, which is with our veterinary pathologist, our veterinary advisor, Professor John Cooper, because we're talking about avian flu.
Ah, right, yeah.
Obviously, this is a challenge for people who've got outdoor aviaries and so on. You know, what is an indoor aviary? Because birds should be indoors now.
Yeah.
But what is an indoor aviary? So, and it represents or presents all sorts of challenges. So that's worth listening to. But tomorrow, I've got a wonderful woman, Margaret, who's one of our very good customers. She's written more than 50 blogs for us. She is one of our armchair naturalists, which was the project we set up during lockdown, so that people who care about wildlife, care about nature, can actually write about it. But more importantly, we could give them a platform, so that they could share what they were learning with other people, like-minded people. So I'm interviewing Margaret tomorrow about her birds, her bird garden, and so on. So it's going to be very wide. I am interested in talking to. And I'd be very, I should say to Graham Turner, it would be lovely to have somebody on there from the UKBC. Perhaps, Neil, no pressure, it could be you.
Well, that would be fine, but we would probably have to do it over Teams or over this rather than me travel out, because I'm out down on the south coast. So the old the long old way up. But
we've got a lovely platform. We've got a very. I mean, it might be something I can show you, because it's our podcasts are really capturing, and this may be something that you can offer to your UKBC members, a little regular podcast on budget. It's finding the time, isn't it? But there's an invite for the UKBC.
Yeah, lovely.
It would be lovely to.
That'd be brilliant. Well, I think we've done almost an hour, so I think we'll bring it to a close. I think that's been brilliant, real insight. And thank you so much for your time, after, I'm sure, a long day at work. And so just keep up the great work, and we'll keep pushing the knowledge out there that Haiths have given us and the mixes.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks to all your fellow members for hopefully listening this far when it's played back.
Yeah.
And thanks for the invite. It's a pleasure to be able to chat to you, and long may the good work continue. And if anybody, go to our website, haiths.com, or please give us a bell. And there are no daft questions for us. We're all learning, and I look forward to talking to you, hopefully, on the podcast, Nature Space.
That's good. You could have heard one of my interviews, because I always say the only silly question is the one you don't ask. So yeah,
I'm with you.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, and we'll speak soon.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.